All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Parksville and District Chamber podcast. I'm Curtis, and I'm with my co-host, Shawn, and we're super excited to be here with you all today to be a part of this youth-led podcast series to highlight some of the local members that contribute to our economy and build a connected community here in Parksville. So throughout the podcast, we're going to kind of learn from some of our awesome members up in Parksville, some of their organizations, and some of the impact that they do to kind of create Parksville the community that it is. We're super stoked to highlight their stories, their experiences, impact, and all the industries that keep our community thriving. As youth hosts, we're excited to help other young people learn how they can get involved with their local community, whether that's volunteering, exploring local career pathways, and understanding businesses that really shape the future here on Vancouver Island. Today I'll pass it over to Shawn, and he'll introduce our first guest for the series.
Yeah. So in this episode, we're talking with Shawn Sales. He runs a company called Considerate Energy, which their goal is to be the leading one-stop shop for energy evaluations. They help homeowners and builders navigate the complexities of grants, permits, and energy compliance. They make it easier for clients to meet regulatory standards and improve overall energy efficiency, as well as so much more. Shawn's a great guest. He's a great person. And without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Parksville and District Chamber podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Shawn Sales. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Shawn, for listeners meeting you for the first time, can you describe what Considerate Energy is?
Of course. So Considerate Energy is a energy advising company, is kind of what it is at its core. I'd started it just after COVID when I was looking to kind of redo what I was doing for work. But what I do as a company is I go into people's houses. I help them make decisions on, what they should do for upgrades, try to figure out what's going to be of benefit to their mechanical systems, to their insulation, things like that. I do that for individual houses. I do it for multi-unit residential buildings. So it kind of varies depending project versus project, whether I'm doing it for rebates, if I'm doing it for comfort, if we're doing it for any greenhouse gas emission reduction reasons. So the reason homeowners have me in their houses or owners have me in their houses, it kind of varies project to project.
Okay, cool. So I noticed on your website, you're doing HVAC as well. So do you do the installations, the actual manual installations, or how does that work?
Don't do the installations, but I do all of the design work.
All the design work. Okay, cool.
So I will take the blueprints, I'll pull those into AutoCAD. I will design the ducting systems, design the airflow delivery, calculate how much heating and cooling requirements the house has, and then essentially design all of your duct runs, all of your supply ducts, all of your return venting, so that every single room can get the right amount of air to provide for whatever heating and cooling that house needs.
Very cool. Mastermind.
Would that mean you'd work with, say, the architects or the construction companies before they even, set foot, on building the house or property? Or I guess it kind of can depend on case-to-case basis?
Yeah, it's kind of case by case, but usually at the start of the project, the architect is mostly who I end up working with.
Okay.
They'll get me involved. They'll send me blueprints. They'll send me plot designs. They'll send me details about what they're planning on doing.
Yeah.
The first thing I always do is I create an energy model to make sure that they're going to meet their energy code compliance. And then from there, I will take the energy model. I'll turn it into a heat loss calculation where I figure out, how much heating, how much cooling do you need in every single space? And then I figure out how many ducts you're going to need in those spaces for that, do that design work, and then they're able to submit both my energy efficiency reports as well as the HVAC reports for any permitting requirements that they have from municipalities.
Yeah. This is very specific. How did you get into this?
So I actually wasn't aiming to do this when I first got into it. Okay. I wanted to have a solar farm. That was my whole reason of where I started. So when I started researching how to put solar panels on a field, I realized the biggest hurdle I had was the cost of labor in where I was living at that time, which is northern Alberta. So I was like, well, if I can figure out how to do all the design and do most of the installation myself, I could essentially design and install a solar farm on a few acre field. But through that process, I took a diploma at Lakeland College for Sustainable Energy Technology, where I learned how to do geo-exchange systems, wind energy systems, solar PV systems, solar thermal systems, how to design them residentially, commercially. And I realized that, installing a distributed generation like a solar farm on a field was going to require a lot more overhead than I had. So I had to figure out a way to turn my skill set into something that was immediately marketable and I could start earning money.
Yeah.
So I went past my energy advisor exams, started working as an energy advisor for a company out of Alberta.
Yeah.
Opportunity came up in Victoria. My wife said, yeah, we need to move. It's time. So we ended up moving over to Brentwood Bay for the first year that we were on the island. And from there, I've just kind of advanced my skill sets in what I'm doing to earn more money through the company. And then at some point, circle back around to my original goal.
Yeah.
So that goal still exists.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
Well, I feel like the island has a lot of land and opportunity for that. And I've heard recently, I was reading a stat online that Victoria's the most sunny place in Canada and potentially in North America. It's the most, I guess, not necessarily sunny. So maybe, I don't know how solar works with that, but it's the most, the climate's, I guess,
the best weather.
Essentially. Like it doesn't snow as much as a lot of places in North America. So
that's a rumor I've heard.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true, but cool.
Yeah.
So you were talking a bit about like how you work with the architects and potentially clients. So I'm assuming you would work with potential currently or homeowners that currently have a property that they want to like uplift their energy efficiency and maybe improve their home. In those kind of scenarios, like what are the main issues you're seeing? Like are people using like say dated windows or like what are some of the things you really come across?
Yeah, so when I go into somebody's house, lots of times the first thing is, what are you looking to do? And the first thing people always say is, I want to lower my utility costs.
Okay.
One thing I always mention to people is you can never lower your utility costs more than they currently cost you. And that's a really important thing to understand, because if you're going to invest $20,000 in say solar panels and your utility costs are $2,000 per year, at best break even is 10 years later.
Yeah.
So it's good to be, identify that. But once we get talking, usually it comes out that they're actually more concerned about comfort. So you kind of walk it through the process. So they might say, you know what, I'm thinking about replacing my windows. I'm thinking about replacing doors. I'm thinking about adding attic insulation, thinking about heat pump, thinking about solar. So my job is to help them understand how much energy each one of those upgrades would save, what that translates into money, and then also talk about, potential rebates, potential incentives, potential comfort that could be corrected. And also help them if they want to create a roadmap where they're like, oh, this year I'll do this, but in 4 years I'll do this, in 7 years I'll do this, and they're able to stage the improvements.
Right.
So it's not everything all at once,
right?
Which is pretty handy. So with Windows, for example, lots of times people are concerned about payback, but when you start talking about them, and they're like, no, it would be nice to have better windows so that room now stays warmer in the cold season, cooler in the warm season. Plus with a triple pane window, now we don't hear all that noise coming in from outside because it's more noise resistant as well.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Like comfort level is important too, and it's kind of something you navigate to once you get past the bill portion of it. That's interesting.
I feel like people are willing to invest the money into comfort, and if they can save a little bit of money at the same time, that would be great too.
Yeah.
You were talking about rebates. I'm not super familiar with how that works, but do you present the rebates, or how do people find out about those types of things to take advantage of?
So a lot of people will find them on, say, BC Hydro's website. But when I complete an evaluation, usually in my follow-up email, I'll have links to all the different rebates that they could potentially qualify for if they completed certain upgrades. So for example, topping up attic insulation, there's rebates for that. Adding insulation to your basements, your crawl space, there's rebates for that. There's rebates for solar panels. So there's a plethora of rebates. So I usually try to direct them to that, and it helps them make a financial decision, whether or not it's a good time to go ahead with it.
Yeah. Are they pretty significant, some of these, like substantial, savings, or?
Some of them are.
Yeah.
I always tell people, go out, get 3, 4, 5 quotes, because you're going to have most of the quotes in a specific area, but sometimes you get a really high one or a really low one. So it's just good to know kind of where you should be expecting the price to fall. Because when you're talking about payback, it is really a cost of installation and maintenance, less your rebates, less your reduced utility bill. So we kind of cover all that.
Yeah.
So lots of times homeowners, once they've done the evaluation with me and they've got these quotes, they'll often send them to me and say, hey, do you mind looking at them? As an energy advisor, I'm completely unbiased. I have no reason to pick one company over another, nor would I tell them which quote to go with.
Right.
What I'm doing is I'm breaking down what the quote says, why it's relevant, and then also mentioning, you should reach out to the company or references that have worked with the company and get the additional information of how are they to work with.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned how you work with construction companies and often the architects. Like, what is part of that process? Like, are you sending them CAD files that they put in the home design directly, or is it more a collaborative? Like, what does that process look like when you build or design a home?
So very collaborative. So usually the architects have already done all of the preliminary design. They've done all their drawings, figured out all the windows, all the doors, have a whole schedule for that. So what I'm doing is I'm taking all that information, creating an energy model to make sure that their house is meeting the different levels of step code that are required in BC. So currently most areas are step code 3, some are moving to step code 4. And what that means is you have to have a certain level of air tightness, you have to have a certain level of insulation levels, a certain level of mechanical assisted ventilation to make sure the house is comfortable all the time. So I do a lot of the verification to make sure that that's the case. And then once the house is built, I end up going there to ensure that the house that's built is as per the blueprints, measure all the insulation levels, take photos, look at the window details, collect invoices. And if there's any changes on the as-built house from the plans, which is pretty common, I make those adjustments to my energy model, and that has to be submitted to the municipality prior to the builder or whoever is building it getting the occupancy permit. So I'm part of that permitting process when we're doing the energy advising. And then for the the duct design or any of the heat load calculations, that's just additional documentation that I provide as well. So I don't work with them in their AutoCAD files, but I will overlay their AutoCAD files with mine specific to the different processes like the HVAC design.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
You're part of the whole thing. We were looking up what a blower door test is. What is that?
So the blower door test, that's my favorite part of the whole thing.
Okay.
So the blower door test, I set up a door with a fan, and it blows air out of the house, and it'll depressurize the building to 50 pascals. Why they've chosen 50 pascals is it roughly creates the pressure difference from inside and outside of about a 30 kilometer an hour wind hitting one of the walls. And then what I'm tracking is how many air changes per hour happen in that condition. So the air changes per hour would be how often the air naturally will just leave the exterior of the house when there's that pressure difference, because air always moves from high pressure to low pressure. So if there's pressure on the outside, it's pushing on the inside, that goes to the outside. It just goes from one side of the house to the other. So new construction houses that are built to step code 3 have to be 2.5 air changes per hour or less to meet compliance. And then once we get to step code 4, we're looking at 1.5 air changes per hour and then 1 air change at step code 5. And each one of those metrics that we end up measuring has to go for the permitting documentation. But if I go in an existing house and it's a 1980s house, I'll tell them I'm expecting it to be between 4 and 8 air changes per hour, which is, it does kind of run that gamut. On the higher end of that, I know that there's some serious air leakage areas that we could identify. I'll pull out my thermal camera, I'll pull out smoke sticks, and I will find all the air leakage locations and identify that in their report, so they're able to do some manual air sealing or hire a handyman to come in and do that. If it's much higher than that, then we've got significant issue that we can really reduce a lot of the energy loss through the air just leaking out the outside of the house.
Wow.
Would that be using like sealant on windows, or how does air escape one's home? I know, obviously door cracks, but other than that, what else? Yeah,
so I mean, you got weather stripping around the doors and around the windows. Your casing lots of times will be leaking around the casing or where the window inset is. So usually silicone is kind of your friend in those situations.
Right.
Around all of your plugs on the exterior walls, lots of times you'll get leakage, so you'll end up putting, foam gaskets, baby-proof plugs, things like that. The newer houses have those all encased, so you don't have that leakage. But older houses, that wasn't part of the way that they were built. And when I'm doing these air leakage evaluations, I always let people know if you make it too tight, we also have to talk about reintroducing mechanical ventilation, like an HRV, which is a heat recovery ventilator, or an ERV, which is an enthalpy recovery ventilator. And they're just air that consistently is bringing in fresh air and moving out the existing air, so that your indoor environment doesn't end up with moisture issues or indoor air quality and mold, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's, airtight houses, you need to account for that as well.
Right. That makes sense.
So you were saying like you use, what was it, smoke sticks?
Yeah.
So how does that work? You light a torch basically and you just follow where the smoke kind of escapes the house, or how does that work?
So I actually have it's like a little handheld fog machine with a straw piece on it, and I just double click on it, and it uses a vegetable oil type material, and it turns into smoke, and I just kind of go around and find out where the smoke is pulling out of the wall.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's super neat.
Yeah.
I did one recently where I was able to kind of take it. It's really helpful to the homeowner because they can visually see it.
Yeah, for
Instead
sure.
of me just saying, it's probably coming out there. They're like, oh no, I can see it going out there. And then the infrared camera is really helpful as long as the indoor and outdoor temperature are at least 10 degrees different. Just because then I can also see the air movement.
Right.
If it's closer than that, then I can see like the conductive heat loss, but I can't actually see the air movement because I can't see that cold and warm air moving through and out the house.
Yeah.
But thermal cameras can be also helpful.
So it's literally just a camera that's thermal. You can see the color change coming from in to out.
Yeah, and you can see like it's like a haziness, like like plumes of smoke that are just kind of leaving. So it's really neat. So I'll take the homeowner around and I'll show them my thermal camera. I'll snap photos as I'm going, and they get to actually visually see it happening. And it's really helpful for them to understand all the areas where the air is leaking and what they can do to fix it.
Yeah.
Air leakage is typically one of the least cost upgrades you can do, just because it's, it's silicone, it's low expansion spray foam, it's weather stripping, maybe replacing a window or two. So there is really quick ways that you can increase the comfort of your house for minimal cost when we're doing air sealing.
Right. I think that's really important that people can see the actual physical evidence that you do have air leakage here.
Yeah.
Sometimes for myself, going to a mechanic, let's say, you're like, oh, do I really need to change my air filter, or do I really need to do these things to my car?
Yeah.
But the fact that you're showing people that, there is air leakage, it's kind of settling for the customer, right?
That's what I find. I find it's actually the most interesting part of the evaluation, and they usually walk around with me because I spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll walk around with me for 20-ish minutes while I'm going to every spot that it could be leaking and finding it for them. And I find it provides a lot of information and value to that evaluation.
Yeah. Very cool.
So the thermal camera, does it work better certain seasons then, just because of the weather outside is roughly? Okay.
Definitely winter is ideal.
Okay. Yeah.
Winter, spring, fall. Summer's awful. You can't really see anything with it.
Yeah, makes sense.
And my hesitation with the smoke machine is some people are really sensitive to it. So I know even for my daughter, if I use the smoke machine in my house, she'll cough for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I always caution people, I can use it, but this could be a potential thing that you're going to experience, like throat agitation. And most people are like, no, I'm okay. Can you just use your hand and feel for it?
Yeah.
Which I can.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not as visual, so I don't find it has as much of an impact.
Yeah.
Right. Fair
No,
enough.
it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So you mentioned different technologies that you've worked with. And like in BC, we see like growth with solar, heat pumps, and geo exchange. Like, do you see any trends with the direction that some of your clients are tending to, walk towards, or like, what is that looking like?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think most people are heading towards heat pumps and solar.
Okay.
I would say that's probably at least 60 to 70% of what I end up evaluating on. With solar, for my evaluation, it's really not super helpful because you can put solar on your roof without having me come out. That being said, during the evaluation, I will mention your slope. I will mention the shading. I will mention whether or not it appears a good roof for solar, so that can be helpful. With heat pumps, the evaluation is super helpful because I also do a heat load calculation, which tells you based on your current house condition, how many BTUs of heating, how many BTUs of cooling do you need? So if you're putting a heat pump in, you know that, I need a 3-ton heat pump that does 36,000 BTUs, for example. However, during my evaluation, I'll do a bunch of upgrade scenarios. I'll say, but if you insulated the floor in your crawl space, or the floor above your crawl space, so the ceiling of the crawl space, you insulate your attic, you do some air sealing, some of these basic measures, all of a sudden, instead of a 3-ton heat pump or a 3.5 or a 3-ton, you can do a 2.5 ton.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're not just saving money on some of your energy by doing the installation, collecting some rebates there. You're also now paying for a smaller system to get installed. So it becomes a really smart conversation.
Okay.
No, totally.
Very cool.
Yeah, I know when my parents redid their heat pump at their place and redid their windows, it was unreal. Like, they have a 3,800 square foot home, which is pretty big. And I know their hydro bill was less than my brother's small little duplex place that had, baseboard heating and all that. And it was just unreal to me, is that often it's not the size of the place, it's how efficient it is.
Yeah.
So it's very relatable to a lot of the stuff you're saying. Yeah.
We just have in here, BC's building codes keep evolving. How are these changes shaping the work that you do in your day-to-day?
It's actually why we moved to BC.
Okay.
From Alberta.
Yeah.
Specifically because of BC's building codes.
Okay.
When we were in Alberta, my wife said, if you're going to keep on doing this career and we're going to make a run of it, BC is going to be a better location because they have mandatory requirements for what you do. Because when we're doing grants and rebates, yes, I'm mandatory for some of those portions of it.
Yeah.
But grants and rebates dry up.
Right.
The Canada Greener Homes Grant, the Canada Greener Homes Loan, they both recently ended. So a lot of energy advisors are out of work. But I also work with builders. I work with architects, and that's mandatory based on municipalities having these requirements of what I do.
Okay.
So for me, the evolving building codes are really important to being consistently busy within this industry. Just because I do have to show compliance, I do have to provide builders with information that is required from a licensed energy advisor through Natural Resources Canada. And part of why they choose energy advisors to fill this role is based on our mandate from Natural Resources Canada and the quality assurance we go through our service organizations. We are required to be completely unbiased in all the information we give and not, fudge the system. It's
Right.
really important that we are just giving the information based on what we see. We have no agenda.
Right. Very cool. Yeah. So how come you chose Parksville then? I know you said you came to BC because it's better regulations, but how come Parksville?
So it was kind of twofold. So we were in Brentwood Bay when the grant had ended. I ended up, when the grant was ending, approaching one of the service organizations that hires energy advisors across Canada. I'd approached them and said, hey, are you looking for somebody to do your quality assurance and your service organization management?
Yeah.
They said yes. It was a fully remote job with a salary as compared to what I do as an energy advisor, which is contract work. So we realized we could be anywhere doing what I'm going to be doing for this company. And Parksville, it's just absolutely beautiful in Parksville.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And we're used to a small town being from northern Alberta, and Parksville fits that criteria for us. It has a small town feel. Your neighbors say hi over the fence. When I go into houses, the conversations just like this are just super relaxed.
Yeah.
So for us, it was natural just because being in Brentwood Bay, you're kind of doing most of your work in Victoria, but it just doesn't feel like the area that you just say, hey, kids, go out, come back when the streetlights come on.
Yeah.
Whereas Parksville, we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really important to us for raising our two kids.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's the lowest crime rate in Canada, I believe. I could be wrong on that. Definitely on Vancouver Island, but I'm pretty sure it's in Canada.
Crazy.
It's a beautiful area that we live here.
Yeah. No, we love it. And, getting outdoors all year round instead of, being in northern Alberta, about 8 months of the year, you're indoors because it's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then speaking of Parksville, what inspired you to get involved with the chamber?
Yeah, so when I was in northern Alberta, in Cold Lake, I was also a member and director for a short period on the chamber there. I think it's really my kind of passion for the chamber and what it does for business is the advocacy piece, where businesses have needs that the government needs to be aware of. So the chamber becomes an organization that those needs can be brought forth to different governing bodies. So for me, the advocacy piece is really important, being that bridge between businesses and regulation. And that's part of it. The other part is I always want to be in rooms of people that are going to have more opportunities for me as a person, whether that means professional development, personal development, but then also for my company, being in these rooms provides a lot of opportunity for expanded growth And it also localizes me to the area, because one thing I learned since moving to Vancouver Island, people really want to deal with somebody that is in their area, is going through the same struggles as them, and has a phone number that is local to the neighborhood they live in, and is putting back to the community that they live in. And that's really important to me, as we are just going to, raise my family here. We want to make sure that we were shaping some of the area that we're living in.
Yeah. Good for you.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
totally.
no kidding.
And then have you realized any specific connections or benefits, or if there were people out there that were curious of getting involved with the chamber, what steps would you recommend they take?
Yeah, no, I think the first step, I would recommend becoming a member of the chamber. I think that definitely gives you access to a lot of the activities and the emails and things like that for the events that the chamber puts on. As a member of the chamber, showing up to the events, you just never know where your next big contract comes from. And the networking portion of what chambers bring to business is so incredibly important. I always mention people, you never know where your next meal is coming from, especially when you're in business. In my experience, you'll be coming to the next, the end of the month. My wife will say, "Are we paying rent this month?" And I'll say, "I don't know. I sure hope so." And next thing you know, one of these connections like, "Oh, I've got a job for you." And you're like, "Oh, that's fantastic." But it only comes from leaving your front door, attending the events, being active in these organizations. So being a part of the chamber for me has been hugely beneficial to making sure that my company can not only survive, but it can start to thrive.
That is very important. I think taking that step and taking initiative is very big. I'll give you a good example. I've told this story before on the podcast, on a podcast before. But when I was in first year university, I had a choice. Either I could stay in my room and hang out with my roommate and play some video games. And I asked him, I said, "Do you want to go to this event on campus?" And he said, "No, I'm just going to hang out here." So I said, "You know what? It's first week of university. I'm going to go to campus and go enjoy this event." And from that, I ended up getting an amazing job at the university doing event planning. Yeah. And it was just this one simple choice that I made. Do I take the initiative and I go put myself out there and put myself in a position where opportunities can form? Yeah. And so it's changed my life when I made that decision, and I wouldn't be where we are today without making that choice. So I'm sure you could probably, attest to that as well.
Well, and for me, one of the quotes that comes to mind is, so I watch, I love fantasy. That's kind of like my jam. And I know on one of the Lord of the Rings, there's some mention where Bilbo mentions to Frodo, he's like, it's a dangerous world walking out your front door. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth is, a lot of people see that danger, but you still need to embrace it. You still need to go out, because that's where all the opportunity awaits.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. I go to a lot of conferences, a lot of different things, and every time it is nerve-wracking. It is hard to get there, but once you do it, and like you said, an opportunity comes up, you're like, oh man, I don't know how I would have been, thriving this year had that opportunity not approached me.
Yeah.
But the biggest part is making yourself available.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, for me, being a member of Parksville Chamber, like a director, paying membership fees, things like that, it's incredibly important.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And then just in general, what keeps you really passionate about clean energy and this type of work?
So no, that's a great question. I guess my passion really comes from, there's a lot of information that can be really helpful. For example, when I go into a house and a person doesn't know exactly how their house uses energy, but they understand they have a utility bill. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to help them better understand where that energy cost is coming from. Mm-hmm. And adjustments they can make because they're just unaware of what it is. So I find the education piece is what keeps me really passionate. I also teach at a college level doing instructor. I guess I'd be the instructor for one of the building science courses.
Yeah.
Where I teach other people coming into the industry the same thing. And I really like the mantra that my wife and I always say, which is a high tide raises all ships. Mm. So that's what makes me passionate, is the idea that if I keep bringing that passion, I keep putting that information forward, I keep elevating essentially the career of the people around me, what we're doing. Everybody benefits. One of the things I mentioned to a lot of people is, the best compliment would be if I train you, you become really good at what you're doing and you become my competition and you do better than me.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing better than that because it makes us all better.
Yeah.
And then for going into
So
houses, the homeowners benefit. For working with builders, the builders benefit by having high experience, high energy, high impact information from a whole slew of people that are in the same career set as me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I kind of got that vibe from you because that's the first thing you said to me when we were talking earlier off camera was you love the teaching aspect of it. And it sounds like you like helping people. So, yeah, I think you're a great fit for this. Yeah.
No, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, where do you see Consider It Energy going over the next few years?
No, that's a great question. So the goal this year would be to hire my first employee. I've been in business for about 5 years, so it is a grind.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I really appreciate about people that are in business is a lot of people love the view from the top of the mountaintop, but not a lot of people want to endure the climb.
Right.
But when you see businesses that succeed and they thrive and they grind through those hard times and they get to the top of the mountain, for me, that's kind of the goal. So where this company's going in the next, 5 years, 1 year, 3 years, this year I'd like to see us get the first employee kind of into the equation. We've started delivering workshops with municipalities, so that's kind of a new offering that we're working through. Working at getting more work through kind of realtor companies and providing workshops to them that are helpful to understanding what we do as energy advisors, how that helps their clients, and how that integration can look. Over 5 years, I'd like to get it to the point where I have between 3 and 4 employees, full-time admin, a nice designated office space, and being able to cover every area of Vancouver Island with really high quality, high reputation, high integrity services. One of the missions that we have as a company is clear and actionable advice. And to provide clear and actionable advice, you have to have a really educated person that is on the giving end of that.
Right.
So teaching a team that is highly educated, highly motivated is really important. But also I want to make sure that the company stays local. And that was part of the development. As an energy advisor, I actually can work across Canada. But my wife and I decided we want to keep this just Vancouver Island and just expand as big as it needs to be, but not so big that it loses the humanity of the business. So that's kind of the goal, is to get to the point where it's got highly trained people that work across the island that are busy enough with builders, with homeowners, doing workshops, probably some educational sessions, and just expanding the sustainable energy industry as it goes.
Yeah.
And then after the 5 years, once the company makes enough money, I would like to circle back and get back into the solar farm that I'd originally had.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's not because I need the additional money to introduce into the company. It's more that was what started it all. I'd like to see it come to full completion.
Cool.
No, that's awesome.
Very cool.
And yeah, if folks have questions for you or want to reach out, where would the best place for people to get in touch with you?
So if you look at my website, it's www.consideritenergy, so 3 words, .com. So www.consideritenergy.com. It has my phone number. It has my email. It's got a contact form you can reach out to me on. And I'm pretty quick at responding. That's been one thing that's really important, is the constant flow of communication, making sure that people aren't feeling like they're waiting too long. But yeah, that's kind of the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram with the company Consider It Energy. So lots of places to find me.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much, Shawn, for coming on.
Thank you a lot.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you in the community here.
Amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
for having me.